The fianna are an interesting group mentioned in the lore that could take the role of combating the path of the beast, though I thought it would be interesting to go through the eire lore drop and try and answer questions about them that are risen there. We'll ask how they are able to overcome the path of the beast, what pagan gods they might worship, if any, how do they have berserkers, how did they overcome the path generally. So, welcome back to the trenches and let's begin. First, let's define who they are. From strangely Celtic web merchant, they are a small group of warriors, typically consisting of 2 to 12 members, who form a fianna. The fianna comprised young men and teenagers who had not yet acquired possessions or status. The fianna associate themselves with the wolf, and from May to October, they had to live outdoors and hunt, with this sort of task giving them basic skills they might need in life, and more importantly for this video, take on animal associated skills, such as cunning, strength and aggression, getting into the mind of those creatures and embody them. That gives you the first idea why they're an interesting, effective opposition to the path of the beast in eire. Let's look at that eire lore drop now, and see the questions it raises. In brief, from the eire lore, the path of the beast invaded eire, and they call on many people that live there. Then, as one of her first acts, the queen lifted the ancient ban on fianna, the hunter warriors of the wild, despite the irritation of her confessor due to the many pagan ways of the fianna. With the additional troops secured, the royal court called the clans to send what remained of their strength to take on the heretic main forces. They then later play a key role after receiving information that Zakher the Conqueror was aboard his flagship Hymn of Obscenity. A raid by the flying columns of fianna was sent to cut off the head of the snake. The fianna were able to learn the heretic passwords, and how they managed to fool the beast guard of Zakher is unknown. What is known, however, is that against all odds, the fianna succeeded. The mighty behemoth warship was sunk when its ammunition cache was blown up by a fianna berserker who carried a barrel of explosives through a hail of bullets. The great heretic conqueror was killed in the explosion that took out several other battleships. The fianna might have older experience fighting the path. We have mentioned with the beast lore that in the ages when men prostrated themselves before graven images, they trembled before the beast. From the goat-headed Fomorians of eire, could they have been there before the path invaded, so the pagans knew how to fight them, or was it just that natural skill? If we look into a little of who the fianna are, to join them, you need to pass several trials. If you pass the first 3 tests, then you face the 4th, which was to tie your hair back in a braid and race through the forest with 3 other fianna chasing you. If you broke a twig in your flight, your garments were torn by a single bramble, or if your pursuers laid claim to a single hair on your head, you would fail. So you can see how that might be relevant. So let's try and answer these questions. Who did the fianna worship to make them pagans, or to have some pagan beliefs at least? They don't seem to exactly have someone they would worship, and it could just be that they were dubbed that way by the queen's confessor. To my mind, there may have been a ban on the fianna, but it makes sense they have been going on in secret anyway. The lifting of the ban, making it official that they can appear. Otherwise, it takes time to train people and troops. I don't think she could have called on them so quickly. It could also be a reference to Christianity coming to Ireland and replacing the faith or faiths that were there already. And also I think the people within the fianna might have not idolised the animal totems who worship. If they try and get into, they might idolise them. So not worship them, but idolise them. In another part of the lore, they learn heretic passwords and fool the beast guard of Zakher. I assume getting past them in some way. They might have been able to act in the manner of a beast, as though they were too possessed by the path. We also know they have berserkers. It seems not from my research, which keeps pointing to Viking berserkers in Ireland rather than Irish berserkers. So to look into that a little more, to give an idea what the court might have faced, we can examine Viking berserkers. History Extra tells us they did exist. The berserkers and the wolfskins, also known as heathen wolves, were a special group of very skilled and dangerous warriors associated with Odin. Berserker troops could be a double-edged sword, as they were difficult to control in a battle and were often ill-suited to formation warfare. Instead, they seemed to prefer to operate in smaller groups, attacking independently. Olav Haraldsson, Saint Olav, put the berserkers in front of his own phalanx at the Battle of Stiklestad in the year 1030. But instead of holding the line, they attacked and thereby contributed to the king's downfall. According to the sources, they could rout an outnumbering force, and when they attacked, they howled like mad dogs or wolves. So that gives you an idea of how something similar might work for the fianna. That idea of fighting in a manner or with the virtues of an animal, there again, could pass to the minds of some within the path of the beast to fool them. Or they might know how to oppose them as they're similar minded and sneak past them or amongst them and slit their about to howl throats. About the password section, I'm also not sure. Again, this might just be an example of the excellent skills they exhibit, being able to pull information from the heretics without being found themselves. For all the path of the beast and their abilities, think about it, the Lord does specify heretics rather than members of the path, so that makes sense. So what do you think to the lore presented in this video? Are the fianna a good opposition to the path of the beast? Would you like to see them exhibited more widely in the lore? There does seem to be a deep and rich mythos behind them from what I've seen during the research for this video. I must say I wish we could get these lore drops a little more often, just to see this great world expand and give me more material to connect and discuss with yourselves. But it will come. What's your most anticipated bit of lore? I love an expansion of the Hunters of the Left-Handed Path, the Cult of Metamorphosis, and maybe expanded information on the industry of hell. We also get a mention of the Artillery Witch, and I'd love to see what they can do to expand them in a way that maintains their purpose, but gives them sub-covens individually around certain concepts. And if you like this video on Trench Crusade, then you might also like this one. And if you want a number of videos on Trench Crusade, then why not check out the playlist on the channel? Just one for that. There are 2 playlists for 40k on the channel. One is everything and is well into the hundreds at this point. The other focuses on a favourite period of time within 40k for me, called the Dark Age of Technology. Lots of lore and theories based on it. Historically, and to return one day, I did a load of Dune videos, which also has its own playlist on the channel. There's also a playlist for The Expanse, books and TV series, most of the books, and a short playlist for the Sun Eater series by Christopher Occhio and Red Rising by P.S. Brown. And that is the end of this video. Thanks for listening. And just to casually pop in at the end of the video without a script, not sure it's the best idea, but let's go for it. Something I've not done in a little while, let's just update you with what I'm working on at the moment. So, I brought up my desktop, we have the fianna video. I'm looking at what might be some interesting theories for the Ultima Thule location on the map, which is roughly where Iceland and Greenland are in our world. Another one I'm looking at doing, that seems to be coming along nicely, is how Christians can be broken to join the heretic, to join the court of the seven-headed serpent. There's quite a lot of mention in the lore, surprisingly, of how the soldiers from the side of the creator might join the heretics based on their situation, what they've been through. And just an idea I had earlier on today, what holy objects could counter the Black Grail? So real world holy objects that I'll research that might be a counter in some way to the Black Grail, even if it's just stopping the village where it's hit, being burnt, and maybe some people can be cured. That's what I'm working on at the moment.